The moment the car pulled out of the driveway, my heart slammed against my ribs. Finally, no parents, no interruptions, just me and the secret I had been building toward for years. This weekend was mine, and for the first time, I could breathe, move, and exist the way I'd always dreamed as her. It hadn't come easy. My earliest attempts were disasters: garish smears of lipstick, hairy legs that betrayed me, a boy's haircut stubbornly killing the illusion. Each time I'd hidden in fear, ripping it all away before anyone could see. But I never stopped trying. I learned from online stories, from scraps of advice, from sheer obsession. I stitched together my own disguise: pantyhose filled with fine birdseed shaped into breasts, foam rubber carved into hips, glued and strapped so tight no one would guess the truth beneath. And now, with the house empty and the clock ticking, I was ready to find out if I could finally stop pretending and start being. The night before my parents left, I spent nearly an hour in the tub, razor in hand, stripping away every trace of body hair I could reach. It was ritual preparation for the day I would have entirely to myself. Neither mom nor dad had ever questioned what I was up to in my room, even when I was making my improvised curves. That secrecy gave me space to perfect my little transformation. I was small, barely 5'6", and thin enough that soaking wet I weighed about 110 pounds, so the details mattered. From Dad, I got the height, though he carried his with thick muscles and swagger. From Mom came my softer features and curls of brown hair. But no matter how carefully I assembled myself, when I dressed, I felt like a giant neon sign flashing boy in a dress. Still, I kept chasing that fragile moment when it almost looked right. That morning, I woke early, determined to do everything slowly and flawlessly. For the first time, I didn't stop at the bedroom door. I pushed past the safety of the house and slid behind the wheel of the car. My plan was simple: just a drive, no stops, no risks, only the thrill of being out in the world. But fear clawed at me so sharply, I barely noticed the skirt brushing my legs, the faint breeze on my skin, the sweet perfume in the air. All I could feel was my pulse racing. The drive was short-lived. Halfway home, the car overheated, steam hissing as the engine died. I coasted into the nearest lot, dread sinking like lead in my stomach. Home was only 6 blocks away, but those 6 blocks felt like a firing squad. Sweat streaked through my makeup as I forced the door open. I had no choice but to walk. The first stretch of road was busy enough that I disappeared into the flow of strangers. But turning onto my own street was torture. My friends lived there, boys who would never let me live this down if they saw me like this. I lowered my head and forced my legs forward, one step at a time, heels clicking too loudly, until at last I reached my driveway. Relief swelled in me like triumph. I'd made it. Then I opened the back door and walked straight into my father. His eyes widened as he took me and his son in a skirt, makeup streaked, perfume clinging to my skin. His mouth moved, but no words came, and I bolted past him, locking myself in my room. Stripping frantically, showering, I thought about vanishing altogether. They were never supposed to come back this soon, but I couldn't hide forever. When I finally emerged, Dad was waiting. His finger pointed to a chair like a judge summoning a criminal. "Why were you dressed as a girl?" My throat locked up. I couldn't tell him the truth that if I could, I'd live like that every day. I barely understood it myself. "I just wanted to try it," I muttered. He pressed, suspicious, grilling me about the car, about my walk home. His anger cut sharper with every word. At last he said, "When your mother gets home, we'll talk about this. I want the truth." We retrieved the car together, but silence hung between us, heavy and dangerous. I busied myself with repairs, my hands trembling as I fixed the broken water line. All I could think about was what would happen when Mom came home. If she told him she'd caught me before, that she knew about this side of me, I pictured my life ending in humiliation. When Mom finally pulled into the driveway, she smiled and waved, then disappeared inside. The suspense gnawed at me until I couldn't stand it anymore. When I walked in, She and Dad were at the kitchen table. Mom looked calm, even amused. Dad, less so. You didn't tell your father about that contest, did you? She asked. I froze. Well, I did, she continued smoothly. I explained that you had to dress as a girl to even enter, that today you were just practicing, seeing how the clothes felt. Remember? I told you to mention it. She smiled, like it was nothing. Tomorrow we'll do it properly. I'll help you this time. No fear, no nonsense. We'll all see how you look. Her voice was bright, reassuring, but under it, I felt the floor shifting. My secret, my near disaster, had been covered by a lie I hadn't chosen. And now there was no way back. Mom's voice was calm, almost soothing, as she told me I'd feel better once it was all done. She'd covered for me in front of Dad, but I couldn't tell if it was mercy, strategy, or something else entirely. The contest she mentioned had come out of nowhere. I nodded along like I understood, though inside I was lost. Retreating to my room, I pulled out a stack of printed stories I'd hoarded from the internet. They were my lifeline, tales of boys who slipped into girlhood with the support of mothers, sisters, or friends who seemed impossibly understanding. In those stories, there was always someone with money for clothes, shoes, makeup. None of that matched my reality. An hour later, Mom entered, closing the door behind her. You finally worked up the nerve to leave your room, and this had to happen, she said, her eyes scanning me knowingly. I know you don't understand what I told your father about the contest, but at least it got him off your back. I guess, I muttered. The problem, she continued, is that now he expects to see you tomorrow, properly dressed, with my help. We'll do the best we can, and later we'll figure out how to tell him the contest was canceled. Before I could protest, she commanded, Stand up! Resistance was useless. She measured me with quick, practiced hands, then waved me out to the car. At Walmart, she filled the cart with the essentials panties, a bra, camisole, slip, pantyhose, black heels. She let me pick out one dress, a black one with tiny red flowers, then paid without flinching. Back home, I carried everything to my room, stunned and bewildered. Still, I knew I had no real choice. Refusing her meant betraying the story she'd spun to save me, and that could unravel everything. If Dad suspected, it would be worse than anything I'd faced so far. So I decided to lean into it. Maybe, with her help, I'd finally look like more than a boy fumbling in his mother's closet. The next morning, after breakfast, Mom summoned me to her room. She had already spoken to Dad. We agreed you'll stay dressed all day once he sees you. That way, you'll have time to get used to how it feels, and he'll see you differently. Maybe then I can stop worrying about you sneaking off and doing something reckless again. Okay? Okay, Mom, I whispered. The transformation took 2 hours. She shaved the last stubborn patches of hair, set my curls in rollers, and coached me through every step of makeup foundation, powder, eyeshadow, liner, blush. Piece by piece, the image took shape. My birdseed breast forms filled the new bra, pantyhose smoothed over shaved legs, the padded panty brief sculpted my hips. The flowered dress slipped over my head, and the black heels grounded me. Mom brushed out my hair, trimmed my bangs, and declared me nearly finished. Lipstick, earrings, a borrowed watch, and painted nails sealed the picture. When I turned to the mirror, I froze. For the first time, the reflection staring back wasn't some parody or half-finished attempt. It was her. Me. Amber. Mom's voice broke through my trance. What do we call you? You must have picked a name. You won't laugh? Of course not. Amber, I said. Then let's go, Amber. Your father is waiting. The hallway felt like a plank over an abyss. Mom took my hand, guiding me downstairs. Dad stood as we entered, his eyes widening. Honey, this is Amber, Mom announced. He looked me up and down, then said, Better than yesterday. Pretty good, actually. Amber, huh? Did you choose that name, or your mother? It doesn't matter, Mom cut in smoothly. Amber suits her. Dad pointed a firm finger. Stay dressed this way all day. I nodded, mute with fear. Mom steered me to the kitchen for coffee, her tone suddenly lighter. Your father invited his golfing buddy over before their round. I think it's a test, Amber. You'll just have to be the girl they see. My stomach dropped. Why would he do that to me? Maybe he's pushing the test further, she said. The doorbell rang. We heard voices, then Dad calling us out. My pulse hammered as I followed Mom, forcing myself to move gracefully. I expected to see Mark, Dad's usual partner, but there were two men, and one of them was my age. This is my wife Linda and Amber, Dad introduced. This is Mark and... Mark smiled. This is my son, Ryan. He's home for the weekend. Thought I'd let him tag along. Maybe Amber would like to join us. She and Ryan can play the other side of the foursome. Every nerve in my body screamed to run, but all I could do was stand there, trapped in heels, with Ryan's eyes flicking toward me. I was horrified at the thought of spending the day so close to someone my own age, doubly so, while pretending to be something I wasn't sure I could pull off. Panic gnawed at me as Dad declared it a terrific idea, pushing me toward golf with Ryan, as though it were nothing. I bolted to my room, not to change, but simply to breathe out of his sight. Unless I could conjure up a flawless excuse, some urgent appointment or obligation, I was headed to the country club as a girl. Mom slipped in with quiet authority, carrying tan shorts and a pink shell top. You'd better wear these. A dress on the golf course would look ridiculous. I don't want to go, I whispered, desperate. I know, but what choice do you have? Your father already agreed. With Ryan here, refusing would look suspicious. Her reasoning crushed me. With shaking hands, I let her help me strip off the dress. I tucked and arranged myself carefully to pass in shorts, slid into the loose tan pair, pulled the pink top over my chest, then laced up my white gym shoes with anklet socks. She dabbed perfume on my neck and handed me one of her rings. Dread mixed with something dangerously close to excitement. I'd played golf my whole life and was good better than Dad, often. But, as Amber, should I hold back or play the game straight and risk exposing myself? Dad was already waiting with my clubs when I came downstairs. On the ride over, he bragged about my skills, which meant I'd have to prove myself. I worried about everything breast form slipping loose mid-swing, my tucked body giving me away, even the way the bra band cut into my ribs when I drew my club back. But once we teed off, instinct took over. My drive flew 10 yards past the rest, and soon I was ahead of them all. Ryan's swing was smooth, far better than Dad's, but by the end of 18 holes, I had crushed them, Dad by 7 strokes, Mark by 10, Ryan by 4. Somewhere between the first tee and the last green, I forgot about my outfit and simply played the game. The real challenge came afterward. At the club, the urge to use the bathroom hit me like a thunderclap. Men's room meant disaster, but I had never stepped into the ladies'. Trembling, I chose survival, slipped into a stall, handled my business, and even touched up my lipstick before walking out as if nothing had happened. At the table, Ryan's eyes lingered on me, making me flush beneath the makeup. Then Dad dropped the next bomb. Honey, Mark and his wife are hosting a company party here next Saturday. They wondered if you'd like to attend. A party? As Amber? I scrambled. I'm not sure. Maybe I'll have to check my schedule. Ryan's hand slid over mine, warm and insistent. Please try to come. My pulse spiked. Mark chimed in, describing it as a fancy affair, smiling knowingly. Dad stayed silent, which was more unnerving than anger. The car ride home was suffocating. Once safe in the kitchen, I spilled everything to Mom. She barely had time to answer before Dad walked in. Mom went straight at him. Why did you agree when Mark invited her? You've been against this from the start. Dad looked weary. Mark does a lot of business with me. With Amber sitting there, how could I refuse without raising questions? He sighed. It's gotten out of hand, hasn't it? I mentioned how formal the party sounded, earning a sharp laugh from Mom. That's when Dad's expression shifted. realizing he'd painted himself into a corner. His little plan to push me into humiliation had backfired. Now I held the power. Mom pressed the advantage. You tried to shame her, Robert. You thought she'd quit, but instead, you've made it impossible. If Amber's discovered, Mark won't just question her, he'll question you. What kind of man plays games like this? Cheats his business partners? Sells lies? Her anger burned, and Dad flinched. Here's how it's going to be, Mom declared. If Amber decides to attend, we'll shop for everything she needs. Not just one dress skirts, pants, blouses, suits, lingerie, makeup, jewelry, shoes, then the salon, hair, nails, professional makeup, and you'll pay without complaint. Dad still didn't grasp it. Why all that? A dress should be enough. No, Robert, if she goes, we can't hide her after. Ryan is already smitten. There'll be more parties this summer, and Amber will need a wardrobe like any other girl her age. Dad swallowed hard. All summer? As a girl? The silence hung for a heartbeat, and I knew the moment had come. The opening I needed. My chance. I lifted my chin and claimed it. I had always dreamed of living more than just fleeting hours as a girl, and suddenly, the chance was here. All I had to do was admit what I wanted and point out that Dad had left me no escape. So I took the risk. You started this, Dad. I was fine dressing up now and then, sneaking out once in a while, whether I looked convincing or not. By accident, you caught me. Then you forced me onto the golf course, thinking you'd break me. You wanted to make the worst day of my life even worse, but it didn't go that way. Now we're stuck. If I vanish every time Ryan asks about me, or every time Mark comes around, it'll be obvious. I can't just disappear. Maybe when school starts, I can hide away somewhere, but not now. He stammered about my friends in the neighborhood. I admitted I was scared of them recognizing me, but Mom had already promised she could help disguise me so completely that no one would connect Amber to the boy they thought they knew. I can be your niece if I have to, I told him. In the end, Dad gave in. He loathed it, but the contract he had just signed with Mark was too valuable to jeopardize. If keeping me Amber for the summer kept things safe, he'd swallow his pride. The idea of being unmasked as dishonest frightened him more than the idea of having a daughter in the house. Later, Mom pulled me aside with a quiet smile. She wanted new measurements before shopping in the morning. I didn't argue. If anything, I was thrilled. Still, my nerves buzzed. My neighborhood was a minefield. One wrong glance, one slip, and everything could unravel. Chris, especially. We were as close as brothers. What if he hit on me, not realizing? Worse, what if he realized exactly who I was? Just do your best, Mom said. Become the girl everyone sees. The next morning, she measured me again and drafted a shopping list. I interrupted her, insisting we add proper breast forms and a new padded panty, not the crude one I'd cobbled together. She agreed, smiling softly. I tied my hair back, added a little makeup, and slipped into shorts and a tee. On the way out, Mom warned me. Your father hates this. He knows he trapped himself, but still. His idea of being a man is all muscle and bravado, and you've rejected that. He's terrified this will blow up on all of us. And if Ryan or anyone decides you're the girl of his dreams, what then? I shook my head. I won't get close to anyone, not Ryan or anyone else. If we do this right, if I act like any other girl, we'll be fine. She didn't answer, but I caught her checking the phone book before we left. Our first stop wasn't clothing. It was a prosthetic shop. Standing beside her, red with embarrassment, I listened as Mom told the woman at the counter I needed the best breast forms they carried, adhesive, realistic, undetectable. The woman didn't blink. She measured me, matched my skin tone, and in minutes, I was staring at myself in the mirror with breasts that looked and felt real. I almost forgot to breathe. When I reached for my bra, she stopped me. I also carry something else, she said, pulling out a strange flesh-toned garment. Mom drew in a sharp breath as the woman explained. It glues on, reshaping your hips and front. You'll have to sit like a woman from now on, but that's the point, isn't it? And if anyone touches you, you'll feel it. It's you in the back. The rest does the work in the front and sides. Holding it felt surreal, like I was clutching a secret too intimate to exist. Still, I took it to the fitting booth, fumbling until I figured it out. Tight, yes. But when I looked in the mirror, a smile broke across my face unbidden. For the first time, I didn't just look like a boy in disguise. I looked like a girl, curves and all. Mom gasped when I walked out. I couldn't stop nodding, grinning as the woman declared it perfect. She fitted me with a long-wear one, glued securely, and walked me through care and long-term wear. By the time we left, I was amber in every measurable way. 34B, 27, 35. And for the first time in my life, I believed I could stay that way. The ride back from the prosthetics shop left me floating, caught between wonder and dread. My new reflection was everything I had dreamed of, but Mom's warnings pressed heavy on me. She was right about one thing I hadn't thought beyond the thrill of being seen as Amber. But even with her doubts, I couldn't shake the certainty that this was the truest version of myself. By the time we walked into the mall, I was determined. Mom didn't waste time. Straight to the lingerie section we went, and for the first time, I wasn't sneaking through in disguise. I was standing there as Amber, expected to choose. The sheer variety left me dizzy. Racks of lace, silk, cotton, colors that seemed endless. I had only ever bought plain, nondescript things from a supermarket. This was another world. Mom guided me like a teacher. She showed me how to read sizes, how to judge styles. She said I didn't really need underwires yet, but they were fun, and she handed me two, one white, one beige. Then she added two fuller coverage bras, both in white, before steering me to panties. Nylon feels nice, she explained, but cotton is what you'll want for comfort. She dropped 3 packs of assorted cotton panties into the basket. We moved on slips of every length, a camisole, 2 waist nippers. At the nightgowns, she let me choose, and I picked a pink semi-sheer one and a white one just as delicate. Mom added a flannel gown with a smirk, earning a groan from me. Then came shoes. I tried on pair after pair, heels and flats, until my arms ached from the weight of boxes. By the end, we carried out a few pairs of shoes, heels, flats, sneakers, even slippers. The sheer volume of bags was dizzying, but with each step, it sank in deeper. I was shopping as Amber, not pretending, not sneaking. This wasn't stolen or borrowed, it was mine. Every stitch, every color, every choice was one step further into the life I had wanted for so long. And for the first time, I began to believe I might really live it. By then, Mom was in full stride, determined to polish me into a girl no one could doubt. With arms already loaded down, I trailed behind her into the juniors department. She let me choose most of what I liked: skirts and blouses, shells and suits, dresses and pants, shorts and halter tops. The pile grew until I could barely carry it, and after she paid, we hauled everything to the car and went right back in. As I juggled packages, it dawned on me how complicated this was going to get. What do I wear? When do I wear it? How do I pull it off? The choices were endless, and I could only trust Mom to steer me right. Still, with my new figure-shaping appliances, I felt confident. Then, Mom floored me again by insisting I pick out swimsuits and matching robes. I steered clear of bikinis, settling on 2 one-piece suits, navy with a white stripe and plain green. She wasn't done. Next stop, a jeweler. To my shock, she bought me a diamond and emerald ring and a pair of diamond earrings. "Every girl should own something real," she said. A pretty watch followed. Then we stocked up on costume jewelry, earrings, necklaces, bracelets, until my head spun. Mom was burning through Dad's money without pause. We had a late lunch before her final surprise. The salon. "The works," she told them. And they delivered. Haircut, rolled, permed, dyed a light blonde, brushed into curls that framed my face. Nails lengthened with acrylics and painted plum. Eyebrows thinned and arched. Makeup professionally applied. I endured the pain of waxing, the nerves of exposing bare skin, but when I finally looked in the mirror, I didn't recognize myself. I wasn't just passable. I was stunning. Walking out of that salon, I knew Dad would explode when he saw the perm. But it was too late. This was me now. My bigger worry was friends and family. With relatives, we could claim Amber was simply part of the family now. But Chris and Josh, my closest friends, that was trickier. Would I tell them the truth? Pretend to be someone else entirely? I'd have to choose soon. Mom wasn't finished. One last stop, a furniture store. There she ordered a vanity for me, delivered tomorrow. By the end of the day, I had everything. A wardrobe, jewelry, makeup, hair, nails. My room was transformed. My boy clothes boxed away, replaced with Amber's life. I slipped into a short pleated skirt and shell top, added perfume, checked the mirror, and walked into the kitchen, only to freeze. Chris and Josh stood there. Mom took charge. "Gentlemen, this is Amber. She'll be staying here all summer." Their eyes widened, not with recognition, but interest. Chris grinned the way he did when he liked a girl. "We came to see if Ethan could come with us to the game tonight." "I'm sorry," Mom replied smoothly. "Ethan isn't here right now. In fact, he'll be gone all summer." That explained everything neatly, except it didn't. Chris perked up. "Maybe Amber would like to come with us instead." Mom glanced at me. My heart raced as I tried to steady my voice. "I'm sorry, I can't." "Maybe another time?" "I'll look forward to it," Chris said, still grinning. Josh, though, studied me with a sharper eye. He didn't say a word, but something in his look made my stomach knot. After they left, Mom sighed. "Josh knows. He'll tell Chris." The thought rattled me. If I wanted to erase their doubts, I'd have to prove Amber was real, show them the swimsuit, or something that flaunted my new curves. Mom reminded me she had warned this would happen, but offered no answers. That evening, we set the table outside. When Dad walked out and saw me, he stopped cold. His eyes swept over me, hair styled, nails polished, skirt showing long legs, breasts pressing against my top. His shock was almost physical, and for the first time, he saw Amber not as a disguise, but as his child standing in front of him. Dad's eyes locked on me, and I knew he couldn't miss the outline pressing faintly against my top. I tried to meet him with a smile, but the silence stretched until Mom broke it. "Robert," she said firmly, "Amber and I went to a shop this morning that specializes in fittings for women who've had mastectomies. They were expensive, but necessary. Now she has a figure appropriate for her age, and it will help you convince Mark that she's a real girl." We also had her hair and nails done, and picked up a reasonable wardrobe. His face darkened. "You mean she has boobs?" "She's perfect in every way," Mom replied evenly. "And everything is attached to stay for months. We have a daughter now, not just a boy in a dress." He went purple, straining against his own anger, but held it in. His voice was hoarse when he asked, "What do you mean, attached?" Mom explained about the adhesive, about the breast forms and the special panty. Dad sank back, staring at me as if I'd stepped out of another world. I whispered that I was doing this for him, but when he jerked upright, I flinched, half expecting a blow. Instead, he dropped back into his chair, his glare cutting like knives. "So let me get this straight," he said slowly. "You've had forms attached so well they can't be detected, and even undressed you'd still look like a girl?" I nodded, my heart hammering. His shoulders sagged further, the reality dawning that he couldn't undo this. Mom reminded him we'd done it to protect him, to help him keep face with Mark. He hated it, but he had no ground left to fight on. He muttered, "Have the boys been by? They're usually here every day." "Chris and Josh were here earlier," Mom answered. "They met Amber. I told them Ethan would be gone for the summer." Dad groaned. "Perfect. Now we'll have two boys sniffing around my son. I hope they don't figure it out." I admitted quietly, "I think Josh already knows. He recognized my voice." That made Dad slump even deeper, until at last he blurted that Ryan wouldn't be at the party after all. meaning I didn't need to go either. Mom's temper flared. How were we supposed to know Ryan couldn't make it? We only did what was needed to keep you from looking like a fool. You knew what we planned. You knew why. Mark will still be there, won't he? Dad nodded, grudging. Then Amber has to be there too, she finished. I added, these appliances don't come off, Dad. This is a body perm, and these nails last months. We're stuck with this, all of us. He stared at me, trapped by what he could see with his own eyes, my styled hair, manicured nails, the feminine shape Mom had told him about. His concept of manhood had been wrecked, and I think he knew it. For a long time, none of us spoke. Finally, he exhaled and said, I don't have a choice, do I? Mom's voice was calm. Amber is here to stay for the summer at least. He nodded, dismay clouding his face, but the fight was gone. He looked at me one more time, then gave a crooked smile. We're still going to the party. Mark expects us. And since you wanted to be a girl, then I expect you to look the part stunning from head to toe. Arrange yourself an escort so no one tries to stick you with someone. Mom raised an eyebrow. Are you sure you want Amber arranging an escort, dear? Why not? He shot back. I had to explain what he refused to see. Dad, for me to have an escort, I'd have to ask Chris or Josh. Probably Chris. Once that happens, it's only a matter of time before everyone in the neighborhood knows. Then the rumors start. Then Mark hears. And then what? The realization hit him, visible in the way his face slackened. He muttered that I shouldn't arrange anything, though Mom reminded me the choice was mine. And in that moment, I knew she was right. There was no way I could live through the summer as Amber without Chris and Josh learning the truth. It had been my greatest fear from the start, and now it was unavoidable. I glanced down at my chest, at the curves pressing forward under my shirt, and felt the weight of it settle. We had told Dad the forms and nails were longwear, and for him they might as well be. But I knew better. Nails could be dissolved, glue could be undone, hair cut short. In a day, I could be Ethan again. And yet, as Amber sat there, I realized I had no intention of going back. Not now. Not when I had come this far. There was no turning back. Just when I had everything I'd ever dreamed of, the idea of undoing it seemed impossible. The fear of what my friends might think still gnawed at me, but I had crossed too many lines already. The appliances had erased half my fears. The rest was only about honesty, about standing before people who knew me as Ethan and declaring that I wanted to be Amber. So I stood, told my parents I was going to see Chris, and walked out the door. This time, dressed as Amber, I kept my head up. Neighbors waved as if nothing were unusual, and most didn't recognize me, though one friend looked twice. Each step strengthened me, until Chris's house came into view and my stomach twisted in knots. His mother was in the yard, trimming roses. She looked up as I walked the front path. Hello, can I help you? Is Chris here? I asked, trying to steady my voice. Her eyes scanned me, widened, then softened into something almost kind. She'd known me forever. Her house had been like a second home. She studied me for a beat, then asked, And you are? Amber, I said quietly. I see. Wait here. I sat on the porch, bracing myself. When Chris appeared, smiling, I almost lost my nerve. But he motioned for me to follow him to the backyard, where we sat by the pool. I didn't expect you to come, he said. I thought you'd be hiding. Chris, I need to tell you something. You used to be Ethan, right? The words stopped me cold. I nodded, tears springing up. He wiped one from my cheek with his thumb. I knew. The second I saw you. Honestly, I'd suspected for a while. Once the dam broke, I spilled everything. I told him about sneaking clothes in my room, about Dad trying to shame me and failing, about Mom stepping in to help, about how I now looked inescapably like a girl. I confessed my fears, my shame, my strange relief. It poured out in sobs and shaky laughter until I sat slumped, empty. He listened without judgment, then said softly, I knew before the other day. I could smell perfume in your room sometimes. He leaned closer, cupped my face in both hands, and kissed me. Just a touch, but it sent a shock through me. I froze, tingling, not sure if I should pull away. He leaned back with a grin. Didn't expect that, did you? Neither did I. But you look amazing, and somebody has to look out for you. Still stunned, I nodded when he asked me to a movie that night. His mom came outside just then, and though surprise flickered across her face, she said carefully, Amber, your mother explained. I don't understand it, but if Chris can accept you, I'll try. The walk home was lighter. Chris's kiss haunted me. I'd liked it, something I hadn't been prepared for. But it settled something deep inside me. I could be Amber, not just in secret, but in the eyes of people who mattered. At home, I went to my room and stripped down, studying my reflection. What stared back was no boy in disguise. This was a girl. Soft skin, curves, the outline of a life I had wanted for so long. I slipped into the bath, shaved smooth again, pampered my skin until it glowed. Stepping back into my room, towel around me, the door opened. Dad stood there. For a frozen second, neither of us moved. His eyes swept over me, taking in everything. The shock on his face said more than words. Without speaking, he turned and closed the door. My heart pounded. There was no undoing what he'd seen. I dressed quickly, pulling on panties, then sat at my new vanity. With surprising ease, I recreated the salon makeup, dried my hair into soft waves, and brushed it into place. I clasped on the beige bra, adjusted it for just enough lift, slid into pantyhose, and stepped into a pale green dress. The neckline dipped just enough to hint. The hem floated at mid-thigh. I looked in the mirror, and for the first time all day, I smiled without hesitation. Amber looked back confident, radiant, and very much alive. I set the cup down slowly, my hands trembling, even though the coffee was hot enough to sting. Dad's eyes bored into me, not angry this time, but heavy with something closer to fear or maybe resignation. I can't see how I can, Dad, I repeated, softer this time. Not after all this. Not after everything that's happened. He leaned back in his chair, silent for a long while, then let out a breath that seemed to deflate him. So that's it then. My son is gone. The words pierced me, but I lifted my chin. You still have me. I'm just not who you thought I'd be. He rubbed his forehead as if trying to ease out the thoughts pressing against his skull. Amber, he said at last, using the name deliberately, almost testing it. This isn't just about you. This affects all of us. Me, your mother, the family, the neighbors. People talk, and they'll talk a lot more now. I nodded. I know, I've thought about it. But I also know I can't go back to hiding in my room and pretending this isn't real. I don't want to be Ethan in secret anymore. I want to live as Amber. Dad stared at me like I'd spoken a foreign language. His jaw worked, but no sound came out, until finally, he muttered, Your mother's dragged me into some strange places before, but never anything like this. He stood, walked to the window, then turned back to face me. I'll deal with it for now, but you need to understand something. This summer, you'll be under a microscope. Everything you do will be watched. If you slip, if people find out, we're finished. Not just you. All of us. I understand, I whispered. He gave a small, bitter laugh. You say that now, but you're 17. 17-year-olds don't understand the world. They just think they do. He took his coffee cup, rinsed it, and left me sitting at the table, torn between guilt and determination. Mom came in a few minutes later, her expression softer than his. She placed a hand on my shoulder. He's trying, Amber. In his way, that was an acceptance. I wasn't sure I agreed, but I didn't argue. My heart was still pounding from his question, and from the realization that, deep down, I already had my answer. Ethan wasn't coming back. Not now, not ever. Amber was here to stay, for now. Tomorrow would bring more tests. Too many people knew now. Chris, Josh, Megan, even Kelly. If I stayed Amber, they might not all like it, but eventually they'd accept it as truth. If I suddenly went back, it would feel like a betrayal, like I'd made fools of them all. Dad leaned across the table, his coffee cooling in his hand. I can handle the gossip. What I want to know is simple: are you going to return as a boy? I shook my head, steady as I could. No, I can't do that now. I just can't. He studied me for a long moment, then slumped back in his chair. Don't get yourself worked up. I just needed to hear it. I braced myself for the tirade that usually followed. Instead, his voice came quieter, though still heavy with frustration. Your mother's convinced me this is right for you. I don't like it. I don't understand it. You had so much going for you, and you want to throw it away just to, he faltered, searching for words. Wash some guy's laundry? It doesn't make sense to me. It didn't make sense to me either, at least not in any way I could explain. But it was real, undeniable. I held my tongue, knowing anything I said would just provoke him. Finally, he sighed. I hate it, Amber, but we'll give it a try. I reminded him gently that the longer I lived this way, the harder it would be to go back. He was smart enough to know it was true. When he stood, I rose too. And then, unexpectedly, he opened his arms. I stepped into them, and he folded me close. With my head against his shoulder, I caught the scent of his aftershave and realized he had given in. Maybe not happily, maybe not fully, but he had accepted me as his daughter. Later, I changed into shorts and a top, skipped the bra on purpose, and walked into the kitchen. Mom's eyes darted to my chest. She didn't say a word, just gave me a sharp little gesture toward the hallway. I grinned, slipped back to my room, and put on the bra she wanted. A small rebellion, but a victory with Dad all the same. By lunchtime, Megan arrived. She was blunt as always. Josh says you're too weird for him now. Doesn't want anything to do with you. Her words hit hard. Josh, Chris, and I had been a trio for years. I like Josh, I said, but I have to do this. My dad doesn't like it either, but he's accepted me. Josh will have to. Megan's eyes softened. My guess? He's attracted to you. That scares him. Easier to push you away than face it. Before I could reply, she asked if I wanted to swim at her place. I countered that she could bring her suit and come here. She agreed, and when she returned, Kelly was with her. I slipped into my navy and white striped swimsuit, towel over my shoulder, and walked right past my parents. Dad let out a gasp, but said nothing. In the pool, the water washed away my nerves. Megan and Kelly followed, and when we pulled ourselves out, both of them got a clear look at my figure. Kelly's eyes narrowed. Is it true? That you used to be Ethan? I had nothing left to lose. Yes. She studied me hard, searching for cracks in the illusion. When Megan nodded beside me, Kelly finally shrugged. She might not fully believe, but she was willing to accept what her eyes told her. When I bent to grab my towel, they both saw the curve of my chest. Kelly sucked in a breath. Megan just smiled. You couldn't look more like a girl if you were in a bikini, Amber. Kelly muttered something about wrapping herself in a towel until I moved away, but I heard the admiration behind it. That's when Mom appeared, balancing a tray of cookies and drinks. Girls, she called, joining us as if this were the most natural thing in the world. As we nibbled chocolate chip cookies, Mom announced, We need to get Amber a gown for the party. I thought we might go today. Kelly and Megan instantly volunteered to come along. I changed into a skirt and blouse, and soon the three of us were swept into Mom's whirlwind of shopping. I expected a quick stop, but Mom's first destination made my cheeks burn. Vicky's hideaway. She handed me a black corselet and pushed Megan into the fitting booth with me. Off came my blouse, off came my bra. Megan's eyes widened, but she said nothing as she helped wrap the garment around me and tighten the laces. I thought I'd suffocate. Panting, I followed her instructions to adjust my chest upward, and when I looked in the mirror, I hardly recognized myself. My waist nipped to 24 inches, my cleavage suddenly dramatic. Megan opened the door. Mom gave a satisfied nod. "Leave it on," she instructed. I slipped my blouse back over the corselet, bra tucked into my purse. Kelly grinned when she saw me. "That's a very impressive figure you have, Amber." Neither she nor Megan suspected the truth. To them, the curves were mine, and I wasn't about to correct them. Mom paid, remarking that now my range of gowns had expanded. I didn't fully understand, but she and the girls did. They knew what I was only beginning to learn, that femininity wasn't just about fabric or cut. It was about how clothing shaped your body, and in turn, how it shaped the way you carried yourself. A gown could dictate your movements, your posture, even your confidence. As we walked out, the three of them looked perfectly at ease, laughing and chatting. I trailed behind, corset tight around my ribs, struggling to breathe. Not one of them asked how I was doing. And maybe that was the point. For them, this was just life as usual. For me, it was a test of whether I could live it too. The first dress shop was a let-down stiff fabrics, dull colors, price tags that made no sense. We left without a second glance. The second store was like stepping into a kaleidoscope of satin and chiffon. Racks overflowed with possibility. Mom handed me 2 dresses. I picked out 2 myself, and Megan and Kelly found one they insisted I try. In the fitting room, each dress felt like a new version of me. The purple sheath, slid up the side, was sleek but ordinary, maybe a 4 out of 10. The long white formal, with its simple lines, was elegant but bland, perhaps a 6. But when I slipped into the black one Kelly and Megan had chosen, something shifted. The satin bodice hugged me. The chiffon and tulle skirt flared just above my knees. The sweetheart neckline framed me perfectly. From every angle, it was stunning. A 10, no doubt. Mom agreed and paid without hesitation. I thought we were finished, but Mom pushed us into a third shop. "One more," she said, "for your birthday." That's where I found the pink sheath with the long embroidered jacket. Understated but sophisticated, the kind of thing that made me feel grown up. By the time we got home, I was exhausted but glowing. I expected Mom to help me out of the corselet, but she only shook her head. "Keep wearing it, Amber. It needs breaking in." Beautiful, it turned out, was not easy. Dinner passed quietly, and later I slipped into my swimsuit for a late swim. The cool water washed the day's heat from my skin. I was lost in thought when footsteps crunched on the patio. Josh. I climbed out, towel dripping, his eyes scanning me with a look I knew too well. Silent tension filled the night air. "I hate this," he said. "I know," I answered. "I'm sorry, but I can't help it. I've always wanted to be a girl. Megan says you're as much a girl as she is." "Do you believe her?" His jaw tightened. "I don't know what to believe anymore." "You were my friend." "I still am, Josh, if you'll let me." The space between us closed. Years of shared memories hung in the air. He looked torn, fists clenched, eyes wet. Then suddenly, he pulled me against him and kissed me. Not tentative hungry, almost desperate. Electricity rushed through me, a shock that left me trembling. I broke the kiss, startled, but didn't back away. His eyes burned into mine, and then he kissed me again. The same jolt coursed through me, stronger this time. I let him hold me a moment longer, before easing back, smiling faintly so he knew I wasn't angry. "Amber," he whispered, "will you let me take you out on Saturday?" "I already have a party that night," I said, "but if you want to be my escort, I'd like that." His grin widened. 6 o'clock. I'll be here in my best suit." He slipped away into the night, and I stood there stunned. Chris had kissed me before, but this was different. Josh's kiss made me feel alive in a way I hadn't expected. It frightened me, but it thrilled me too. Inside, I wrapped myself in the flannel nightgown and fell into the deepest sleep I'd had in days. The next morning, I told Mom that Josh was taking me to the party. Her brows rose, but she only nodded. The house cleaning kept us busy all day. I worked alongside her, even finishing the laundry before she returned from errands. Eager to be a wife, Amber? She teased. No, I said with a smile. Just eager to learn how to be a woman. And how is it so far? Busy. That evening, Kelly stopped by. We walked together, and she brought up Josh. Megan says he's taking you to the party. How good a kisser is he? My blush betrayed me. Kelly smirked. Uh-huh. Thought so. You've been a girl for what, a week, and he's head over heels for you. I've been trying to get Frank's attention for months with no luck. I stopped her with a grin. You're looking at the wrong guy. It's Chris who's been carrying a torch for you. He just never had the courage to tell you. Her eyes went wide. But I thought you and Chris. I shook my head. I like him, but it's Josh who lit me up. Don't you dare tell him, though. Kelly laughed softly. He already knows, Amber. Trust me, he feels the same way. We walked longer, sharing secrets, until I returned home alone. Tomorrow would be the last calm before the storm. The party was only a day away, and Mom had promised a serious talk in the morning. I already knew what it would be, the mother-daughter version of the birds and the bees. Strange, I thought, smiling to myself. I couldn't get pregnant, but somehow that didn't matter. I was about to be initiated into a whole new world. Mom's voice softened, almost conspiratorial. I gave you those panties for a reason, dear. They're not just for show, they remind you of what you're presenting to the world. Grace, poise, confidence. That triangle of fabric might be tiny, but it forces you to carry yourself differently. You'll notice how you walk, how you sit, even how you breathe. That awareness is what makes women magnetic. I smoothed the fabric across my hips, glancing at my reflection in the vanity mirror. She was right. They barely covered me, but they changed the way I moved, every motion suddenly deliberate. Mom tugged the corselet strings once more, firming the shape of my waist. There, now you're armed, she said with a grin. You've got your gown, your figure, and just enough mystery to make people stare. That's half the game, Amber. The other half is attitude. Don't ever let them see you doubt yourself. I took a breath, the corset holding me tight, and nodded. I think I'm ready. She stepped back, looking me over as if I were a finished painting. Ready? Maybe. But tonight will be a test. Every glance, every word, every smile, people will measure you. They'll whisper. Some will approve, some won't. But if you hold your head high, they'll follow your lead. I let my fingers brush against the delicate black fabric at my hips, the sheer stockings on my legs, the snug line of the corselet. For the first time, I didn't just look like Amber. I felt like her. Then let's make them believe, I whispered. Mom's eyes softened, her lips curving into a smile, equal parts pride and worry. They already will, sweetheart. All you have to do is walk out that door. I'll carry your thread forward in the same voice and rhythm you've been building, keeping it seamless and emotionally rich, without breaking tone or policy. Here's the continuation and wrap-up of your rewritten story. From the skin outward, I felt like a girl, and somewhere along the way, that certainty slipped into my bones. I no longer had to pretend. I only had to be Amber. Dad's acceptance came in the form of a ring, small but shining, and the quiet words that cut deeper than all his anger ever had. You are my daughter. That night, stepping into the country club with Josh on my arm, introduced as Amber Elizabeth, I realized I had crossed a line that could never be walked back. There were stares, questions, whispers, even envy, but none of it outweighed the warmth of being seen and treated exactly as I wished to be. Every dance with Josh, every smile from Mom, even the tight line of Dad's jaw slowly softening into pride, it stitched together a new reality. Josh and I had our moments of testing boundaries under the stars, moments where instinct wrestled with restraint. But what mattered most wasn't what we almost did. It was what we chose. To walk forward together, still discovering, still learning, Weeks passed, then months. At my birthday party, Mom and Dad stood tall and told the family the truth that they had a daughter now. The name Amber Elizabeth became official, stitched into paper and law. No longer a disguise, but an identity. School shifted too. A private academy for girls opened its doors to me, and I walked those halls not as a guest in borrowed clothes, but as myself. Chris and Kelly found each other. Megan set her sights on nursing, and Josh and I stayed close, closer than I thought possible. Dad and I rebuilt what had cracked, not as father and son, but as father and daughter. Mom and I became confidants, conspirators, partners in all the subtle art of womanhood. Do doubts still creep in? Yes, in quiet hours. But they pass. Because the life I once thought impossible is mine now, step by step, stitch by stitch, moment by moment. And when I look ahead toward the changes I've begun, toward the body I'll one day truly call my own, I feel only anticipation. 2 years, the doctors say. 2 years until the reflection in the mirror isn't just clothes, it's whole. I can hardly wait.